3.
Four on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm Chris Roloff, here with you every afternoon from 3 to 5. The only person missing today is J. Michael McCall, who normally takes the position on the mic that I've got today. I'm just filling in for him. Walked into my office today at 2:30, at about 2:30, and said, "Hey, Chris, have fun doing the show." And I said, "Thanks." And he said, "Well, I've got good news. I've got great guests for you today." And so far, I agree. We got through the first hour. Randy King was our guest the first hour. And I've got a lot of thinking to do, Randy. You know, sometimes when God puts something on your heart in one way, but then he puts another thing in front of you, you kind of got to ask yourself, Lord, go back and listen. If you have a chance, go to YouTube, look for Webcast One Live in YouTube, and we've got all a playlist of a bunch of shows that are on Webcast One Live, and Max World Live has a playlist of all the broadcasts, and it's updated every day after we do this show, and you can go back and listen to previous broadcasts. I encourage you to listen to that first hour and hear about what God is doing in Guatemala. The regular cast of characters are here. Bob Montserrat, the cat in the hat, watching the chat, is here. You can send him a text. Just say hi at 515-809-0993. Frank the Verse Thomas is here as well, wearing just his long ponytail. Jeb is producing. Hi, Jeb.
Hi, Chris.
See, I give you opportunity to say
yeah,
stuff.
I'm in here and working behind the scenes, but you don't see me on camera, so
That's
maybe
right.
one day, though.
Maybe one day we'll have to get, as we've talked about before, the behind-the-scenes camera, the Jeb Cam. The Jeb Cam.
Yeah, the producer cam. We'll have it up here in the corner. You can see all the technology and all the behind-the-scenes work.
I tell you, a lot of people would really like that.
Yeah, they might.
And
I might get more phone calls, too.
It'll
That's
be
right.
the return of the Jebi.
Return of the Jebi. Jeb is the one who answers the phone when you call in at 515-244-0077 with your questions and comments about any of the stuff that we're talking about today. I told a friend of mine, Pastor Michael Damastis, that I would let people know about this. You know, you've probably heard about this on KCBI, the Des Moines Register. Don't take it from me, Randy. It's been out there. We talked about it yesterday. There's a local church, Fort Des Moines Church of Christ, is currently, along with ADF, is suing the Iowa Civil Rights Commission over this transgender bathroom, and their overreach into churches and their obstruction of our religious liberties here in the state of Iowa. And so these guys are proactively suing the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. And if you want to stand with them, it's very easy to do that. There's two things that you can do, and I want you to do these, okay? Tonight at Fort Des Moines Church of Christ, they're having a prayer meeting from 6 to 7 p.m., and you can go there and stand with them and pray together. It's if you've never been to a large group prayer meeting where people are really hungry just to seek the Lord, to pray for God's will, guidance, protection, etc. It's a very exciting time. You know, it's one thing to pray at home, but it's another thing to really take the time out of your busy day, get focused, and say, I'm going to do this, and all these folks are going to do it with me. So it'll be a really cool thing. That's tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. at Fort Des Moines Church of Christ, located at 244 Army Post Road in Des Moines. If you can't make it tonight, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to call Pastor Mike Damastis on the phone and give him a word of encouragement. Just thank him for standing up for religious freedom in the state of Iowa and defending it, because he's going to come under a lot of attack. He already is. He's going to come under more, and it's not going to be pretty. And people already, I mean, this guy's been getting death threats and called all kinds of names, a sexual pervert and pedophile. All this stuff has nothing to do with what he's doing. Just the vile hate that comes out at this man. And if you're friends with him on Facebook, you've probably seen.
You said that wrong.
Did I say that wrong?
Yeah.
Comes out at him.
There you go.
Not of him. It comes out pointed at him. He posts answering machine messages sometimes on Facebook, and they're just atrocious. So what I want is for our listeners to call and encourage him and say thank you for standing up for our religious freedoms. The church phone number, you can find it online, Fort Des Moines Church of Christ, Google it, or write this down, 515-285-1254. 515-285-1254 is the church number. Call and encourage them today. Bob, would you call him and encourage him? Michael?
Right now?
I don't know. Maybe you should. This hour, I said before we came to the 4 o'clock hour that we were going to hear a story about God. I want to do that. I want to hear a great story about God saving people. So I've been a Christian my whole life. And if you have been a Christian for a long time, you're probably honestly like me, you get cynical. Come on. You ever get cynical?
No.
You never get cynical, Randy? You ever go, Lord, what are you up to? Everything seems so terrible. Everything's so, awful right now. There's the political race right now. It just seems atrocious. Our religious freedoms are being taken away. Everybody's gone crazy. Everybody's gone mad. God, where are you? Well, I'm excited to hear Travis's story because then God's there. It's a place where God showed up. It's a proof of God's story. So Travis Garrett is my guest, our guest, your guest. Travis, welcome to the broadcast.
Thanks for having me.
As I said in the first hour, you had the great privilege of being hung up on by me. You called in, and I thought I was going to take your call, and I pushed the wrong button and hung up on you, and you were kind enough to call back. And now you're in to tell your story. So, Travis, tell us who you are. Is Iowa home? Did you grow up in Iowa?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Eldora, Iowa. Lived there there and around there, probably till I was about 32.
Where is that for a non-Iowan?
It's pretty much, if you look at a map of Iowa, in between Eldora or Des Moines and Waterloo. Eldora, if you just drew an imaginary line, Eldora is pretty much dead center.
Okay, fantastic. So that's where you grew up till you were 32.
Yeah, something like that. I lived in Marshtown. I lived in Iowa Falls. It's when you're a drug addict criminal, there's not a lot of stability. So
yeah, so you were a drug addict and a criminal. But before we get there, did you grow up in a home that was religious at all?
No, not at all. No, not at all.
Okay,
not even a little bit. My mom was. I never met my dad. My mom was. I would say she was a good person. She wasn't a Christian. She worked hard, but being a single mom raising 4 kids, she was never there.
So you had other brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have 2 older brothers and an older sister.
2 older brothers. How are they doing?
Well, one's in federal prison right now in Pekin, Illinois for selling meth, and the other one is living in Eldora. They're both good people, though. It's just it's with a lack of guidance growing up. I don't really think any fault of my mom is she worked all the time, and we kind of raised ourselves. And the Bible says something about that: bring them up, train them up while they're young, and it's proof.
Yeah, you were kind of abandoned in that sense, in a way. Kind
of, but I sure don't point no fingers at her for it.
Sure.
Actually, she just died 3 weeks ago, so that seems really sacrilege.
Sure.
I loved her to death, and she did the best that she could. In the last hour, we were kind of talking about poverty. Well, we weren't making $13 a day, but we were definitely poor and grew up poor for America's standards. But she worked as hard as she could for being unskilled and provided for us the best that she could.
Yeah, so. And you said that you never knew your dad?
Nope, never met him.
Never met him?
Huh.
And did you go to public school? Did you graduate high school? Did you do all the school stuff?
No, I was super, super smart. I went to school until I was a junior, and then, as much as I could get to school, I usually missed every Monday and Friday because I was either hungover or stoned, and I was stoned a lot in school. But and going to juvenile placements, the detention center there in Eldora, or I was sent away a couple times. But anyway, my senior year, actually, I got a job placement thing, a work credit course where I could go work at the local sawmill for like $7.50 an hour, but it would count as credit towards graduating.
Okay.
Because that's what I wanted my career to be, to work for $7.50 an hour.
There you go.
Like I said, we grew up pretty poor, so the first time I got a check for $173 after a week's work or whatnot, I was like, woo-hoo, I don't need school. And so I dropped out.
There you go. But now, Travis, you had said here by this time, though, already you had been exposed to drugs, alcohol, part of that too, just kind of a given. How did drugs and alcohol find you? How did you find them? Do you remember?
Yeah. When my middle brother, Willie, he had moved to Tucson, Arizona he's the one that's in prison now, with my sister, and he came back when I was in 8th grade, and that was the first time that I smoked marijuana. I had drank before then. That was just gonna happen, I guess, when you're unsupervised. In 6th grade, actually, one of my friend's dad bought us a 12-pack, and we stole a truck, and I crashed it, and I got arrested for that. So I mean, it was a bumpy road right from the gate. As soon as I was old enough to do bad, I did bad. That's just what my life did. So drinking by 12, smoking weed by 14, shooting meth by 16.
What did you think that first time when your brother came home and you did he suggest, hey, Travis, smoke some of this, or did you want to do it because he was doing it?
I tailed him. I looked up to him. You know, he was older
Sure.
than I was. He was hanging out with different people. At that time, I was actually living in Hubbard. What I can tell you is before that happened, like in 7th and 8th grade, I went out for every sport that I could possibly go out for. I was on the honor roll. I did everything that I could. At that point in my life, I was trying to, I don't know why I was doing that, but that's just where I was. And then when I got exposed to like, wow, that looks like fun. You know what I mean? And to my brother's defense, he didn't want me to do those things, but I was just the kid brother that was trying to tag along all the time.
And that was his world, and you looked up to it, and it seemed like another option in a difficult world. Travis Garrett is our guest. We're going to hear more from him about how God found him when we get back right here on 99.3 FM.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
You reset a little bit. Frank tells me I'm live on the radio and I should talk into the mic. Thanks, Frank.
No, I was saying before you started talking, you were talking and you didn't hear it because you didn't have your headphones on.
This is The Truth, 99.3 FM. It's Max World Live. Travis Garrett is our guest, and Mike Myers sent a message in and said that Jesus saved you. And Mike, how do you know? We haven't gotten to that story yet. Mike, you're getting ahead of the game. Don't cheat. Don't go to the end of the book. That's the problem with Mike Myers. See,
Mike does know, though.
He does. Yeah. I know. I'm giving him a hard time. He's read the end of the story. He knows who wins, don't you, Mike? All right. So, Travis Garrett is our guest today, and he's here to remind guys like me, stiff-neck, stubborn, cynical Christians, that God still is at work in the world. But we haven't gotten that far yet. We haven't gotten that far. You were in Eldora, Iowa. Is that right? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
And your older brother, you got two older brothers.
Yep.
Your older brother comes home when you're in middle school.
Yep.
And he's partying, drinking, smoking weed, and you want to be just like him.
Yep.
And there's a microphone. We got to have you talk
my
to
bad,
that
my
one.
bad.
No, that's fine. It's helpful. The listeners like it when you talk into the microphone.
Okay.
And so you looked up to him, and so you started doing drugs and smoking weed and all that kind of stuff. But you said something interesting right before we went to break, and that was that your brother really didn't seem to want you to do that, though.
No, I don't think he did. He loved me. I know that for sure. And part of that might have been the fact that he's 3 years older than I am, so he surely didn't want his kid brother tagging along all the time.
Oh, there's that. Yeah.
You know, so, but
That's
also,
not cool.
What I know for sure is I'm not too sure how much he was concerned about me drinking or smoking weed, but I know for sure when I first did meth, he was definitely opposed to that, which I completely understand because
did he use that?
Yes,
he was a meth user. Okay, so he knew that it was no good.
Yeah.
So that forgive me, I've never done meth. So that is an interesting thing to think. If you're using meth, you recognize that it's bad, so you don't want other people doing it. So here's a really ignorant question: why are you doing it?
Because because you're addicted to it. Because it's you wouldn't want other people that you love doing it because it takes over your life. It consumes you pretty much everything. It makes you lose all your values. It makes you just become absorbed with it.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not ever going to want your kids or your brothers or your family doing it.
So you can recognize it as a control over you.
Yes.
And
I did.
And you keep going. So you realize you don't want other people doing it. So when did you get contact with meth? How early did that happen?
I think I was about 16. 15 probably. I started taking it intravenously when I was 16, and that was a real rapid decline from there.
And you said before that, though, before you ever were exposed to drugs and alcohol, or drugs, hard drugs anyway, you liked school, though. You liked learning. You were on the honor roll. You went out for sports. You did all that kind of stuff. And
yeah. Well, it's really strange. I had a couple of, when I was young, it was like I was inherently bad. And then what happened? That sounds really bad, but like at a real young age, I decided that it was okay to like fight and to be bad and to steal. I think the first time my mom had to pick me up from the police station, I was probably in second grade. And then really what happened was like in middle school in like 7th and 8th grade, the people that I wanted to be around were, for lack of a better word, the preppy kids.
Oh, sure.
You know, so then I started playing sports, and those were the people that I wanted to associate with. So I tried, but it didn't really work out that way. I just ended up going right back to my roots in a couple of years, and so.
Yeah, it's hard. Did you resonate with that? In the first hour, we talked, Travis, a little bit about, you said you're growing up in poverty, exposed to drugs. Did you resonate with that idea that you needed a hand out of your situation, opportunity to get out? Did that resonate with you?
Yeah. I moved to Boone like 4 years ago to get sober, and a lot of people laugh about that because Boone's not really known as a sober place. But
sure.
So I had to move away from Eldora. Not that there's anything wrong with Eldora. It's just after so many years of doing drugs and committing crimes in that area, I can't go to come and go without running into somebody I used to do dope with. And my willpower was so weak that I just couldn't do that. I had to remove myself from the situation. I had to get far enough away that I could go to the store without running into somebody on dope. Or somebody that I knew, you know. So then I came to Boone, and that's where everything changed for the better.
Let me take you a step back a little bit. So you were in middle school now. You've been exposed to marijuana. When did you say you were exposed to meth? I'm just trying to follow.
About 15.
About 15.
Yep.
Things were going okay for you, though? You were going to school? No, they weren't going okay.
Things, I don't know. things didn't go good for me I mean, pretty much from 8th grade on, it was just about partying, you know. And I would smoke weed, drink beer, and then when meth came around when I was like 15 or 16, it just, at first, it was kind of, I mean, have you ever seen Dazed and Confused?
Sure, yeah.
It was just you're partying, you're in high school, and then you don't realize at first what's happening, what's taking shape, that this is becoming your life. Well, we're young kids, we're having fun, you know what I mean? And you do some meth and you can stay up all night and drink longer, but then it gets to the point where, for me anyway, this is kind of farther on down the line, but if we were drinking and somebody busted out some dope, some meth, everybody else would do a line and just want to keep on drinking and having fun. As soon as I did it, I just wanted to do more meth.
You were done with drinking. You're like, that's where I want to go. Yeah. Wow. Frank's got a question.
So on some of these meth escapades, what was the longest time you ever stayed up?
You know what? I can't tell you for sure, because a lot of people who will focus on their amount of time up, that wasn't my goal. My goal wasn't to stay up for 14 days or 19 days. I have no idea what would be the longest. After I started shooting meth, I just wanted to be as high as I could possibly be at all times. So basically, I would shoot meth like people would normally shoot coke, because you shoot coke for the rush. I started shooting meth like that, doing big blasts, and you just get out of your mind. It's like.
So would you describe you as hallucinating?
Oh, yeah. Most people on meth do.
Well, usually after they stay up for a prolonged period of time, they talk about going to the other side or crossing over. They're clearly hallucinating because they've went sleep deprivation so long.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if you're doing 0.5 gram, 3/4 gram shots of meth, then like that, the only way I can describe it is if you just slammed a bottle of Jack Daniels. You know what I mean? You're completely out of your head. There's no reality. You can kind of function, but yeah, you shouldn't really be doing much.
So Travis Garrett is our guest. If you have a question or a comment for Travis, you're welcome to call in if you'd like at 515-244-0077, or you can send us a text at Service Legends Truth text line at 515-809-0993. This is The Truth, 99.3 FM. Travis, how did this is kind of a weird question. How did crime enter the picture for you? I mean, as a drug addict, you're doing drugs. I don't know if consuming drugs is a crime. Is it a crime to consume drugs?
Yeah, it's a crime to possess them. It's a crime.
Illegal drugs.
Yeah. So just having them, that's illegal.
Right. Possession is
okay.
illegal.
I know that's an ignorant question, but man, in all seriousness, I don't even want to go down that road. We don't know what the law. I have no common sense on what laws are. So how did you go from breaking that kind of law to breaking some other kind of offense? How did you get?
Well, like I said at the beginning, we didn't have any money, so in my family. So I had to pay for them. You know what I mean? And the very first time that I found out that with marijuana, that you can either buy 1/8 of an ounce for $25, or you can buy a 1/2 ounce for $75. And I said, wait a minute, that means one of those is free. So straight out the gate.
See, you were good at school. You're really good at math. Look at this. This is fantastic. Fantastic. Well, Economics 101.
So I figured that out. But even clear back at the beginning, like I said, for a couple of years I tried to do well. But I mean, I told you, my mom probably had to come get me from the police station the first time in 2nd grade. Right away, for some reason, I had this thought, I guess, that all the other kids in school come back from Christmas vacation with new clothes and stuff like that for a week, and I might get one outfit if I'm lucky, And so I always felt less than, but I was kind of bigger and didn't care. So I had a thought right away that since it's not given to me, since I am never going to catch a break in life, I'm just going to take what I want. And so that's just how I live my life, and I didn't have a problem with that, So the crime just naturally came.
It was the way to make. It was your job.
Yes.
It was the way to meet an ends, right?
That's what it becomes. Yes.
That's how it became. So what happened? I have to go back, and I know this is following the timelines all messed up. But you mentioned going to the police department when you were in 2nd grade. What does a 2nd grader do to get busted and go to the cops?
It's funny. That particular time, me and my friend Josh Trimmel, who died, he was shot a couple of years ago. God rest his soul. We had gone to Hy-Vee, and he stole a copy of Nightmare on Elm Street, and I tried to steal a cheesecake. and it wasn't a small cheesecake, and they just caught me walking out the door with it,
Gotcha, okay.
Just stupid stuff that kids do,
Yeah.
At another time, me and my brother, I think I was in 4th grade, they had just poured the the concrete outside the school in Eldora, and at that time we were into skateboarding and stuff, and we wrote like "Skate or Die" and "Mr. Reed sucks." That was the only not in those nice words. That was the principal, and I was a criminal mastermind, so I wrote "Travis Garrett was here."
Well, you were good at economics. There are other things that you were not very good at. Travis Garrett is our guest. This is we don't want to glorify drugs and alcohol and any of that kind of stuff, but I want you to understand I want you to meet Travis. I want you to get to know him. And then Travis, you got arrested at some point, actually went to jail. What was the first time you got locked up? What happened there?
Well, the first time, I mean, there was a bunch of them, all the misdemeanors. I don't think I was barely 18 when I got my first adult charge. I mean, tampering with a witness. I think we beat up this guy who we thought was going to tell. There was a bunch of assault charges, a bunch of paraphernalia charges, just pretty much for a while in Eldora, if they saw me walking down the street, they were going to either pull up on me and I'd take off running if I had a bunch of dope on me or whatever, and then they'd get me for interference with official acts, or they knew that I was up to no good. So it was, I just have a bunch of charges. My major case was conspiracy to manufacture meth, which came in 2002. I was 22, and I got caught with pretty much a meth lab, everything but the anhydrous at Target names. And I sat in the Story County Jail for about 11 months trying to fight that case. And you know what? The state of Iowa really, I made them send me to prison because I sat there for 11 months. They gave me a plea bargain that I agreed to, which would be 10 years, go to the halfway house, suspended sentence, which is, I mean, pretty generous of them considering all the other stuff on my record. So I went to the halfway house. I did that. I completed that, and didn't get no trouble in there. And then I got out of there and I started skipping my PO appointments. I was shooting meth, so I couldn't take the urine analysis. So then they sent me back to the halfway house. Then I got out, and I always do good when I'm locked up for some reason. I guess I should have went to the military because I do pretty well with structure. But I got out and ended up just running in the same circles. Ended up crashing this truck on Highway 30 and ended up going to prison. They finally revoked my probation. I did a couple of years, started in Fort Dodge and then to Rockwell City.
Well, yeah, you made that comment and you made it again that you made the state of Iowa, you wanted the state of Iowa to lock you up.
I didn't want them to, but I made them because they gave me every opportunity not to be in prison is what I'm saying. They gave me every chance to clean up and do what was right. But you forced their hand because you just kept being a bonehead. Yeah, because I couldn't.
Can I say that?
Yeah,
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Being a
I was
bonehead.
completely a bonehead. I couldn't.
Folks, I've gotten to know Travis. He's a really nice guy. That's why I feel comfortable calling him a bonehead. We got about a minute left before we go to break, and we want to keep your story because something changed for you, and you had to leave that bad environment, and we want to hear about that. You got a question, Bob, or a comment?
I do have a text that came in.
Okay, can we read it?
Or unless we want to wait.
We're going to hear from him when we get back. Travis Garrett is our guest. You're listening to Mac's World Live. Thank you for tuning in today. We know if you're driving home right now, you're probably saying, what's going on? Where's Mac? This feels like one of those Recovery Monday shows. I guess I'm not like Mac, but I'm Chris Roloff filling in for him today. But the real star of this show is the Lord Jesus Christ. He hasn't shown up just yet in this story. Oh, but he's there. He was there the whole time. And Travis, I think, learned that he was there. And Travis knows that Jesus was never gone in his life. And we're going to hear how he revealed himself in a big way to Travis when we come back right here on 99.3 FM.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed right or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hopefully this is this. I always want to listen to the music. This is the Truth Network, 99.3 FM. Chris Roloff filling in for J. Michael McCoy. This is Max World Live. It's your program. Thank you so much for tuning in right now on your drive home. We appreciate you listening to Max World Live. We're hearing a God story today. If you need a God story today, you are absolutely at the right spot. Do not touch that dial. Stick around and let's hear this God story. Travis Garrett is our guest for the next half hour as we finish up to going into 5 o'clock. We've got some interaction already coming in. So we've got a text that came into our Service Legends Truth text line at 515-809, and we're going to get to that in just a second. But Bill from Waukee called in, and he's got a question or a comment or something. Bill, how are you? Welcome to Max World.
Good.
Oh, hang on just a minute. I forgot to tell Travis he's got to put his headphones on to hear you, Bill. All right, go ahead, buddy.
Okay. I came in kind of late, Travis, but you're telling my story. I came in about the time when you said the first time you went to the police station was second grade, and then it progressed. I was wondering, do you ever remember making a conscious decision to go ahead and just live that lifestyle because you were not going to do any better than that? So I might as well just keep on going. Because I'm in my 5th time in prison. I had just decided, this is it, man. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, so I might as well do it. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, definitely. I can remember, actually, it sounds real twisted, but I can remember joking around with some of my friends whenever they would try to get sober, and I would just say, hey, we're addicts. You got to embrace it. You know what I mean? I used to joke and think that I was pretty much just Billy the Kid without a horse. I mean, that was the life I lived, I didn't follow any rules, and I wasn't about to start.
Why?
So.
I know. Why? Because, my thing was, like you were talking about doing the meth, I would do as much meth as I could so I could stay awake as long as I could so I could do more cocaine because that's what I liked. It was just a mess would keep me awake so I could do more. I liked that rush. And, I hear Max say all the time that Jesus manhandled him or whatever, but I believe Jesus kicked the doors down and saved me. Otherwise, I've been out of prison, be 12 years in September, and I wouldn't be where I'm at now if it weren't for Jesus kicking in the door and saying, "Okay, you're done. You're gonna do something different now." So I know you probably haven't gotten that far in your story, but I guarantee you, if your story so far it's been like mine, the rest of it will probably be the same way. You got saved, you're back in doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I just think it is a great thing of what you're doing. So don't give it up, because life is really great out here. And all the other people that are listening, if they have this problem or know somebody who has this problem, you get them the same help that we got. So, and that's all I got to say. I'm happy I turned on and listened.
Hey, Bill, thank you so much, buddy, for calling in. Really an encouragement and a great testament to how much Jesus is faithful to seek us out and find us anywhere, right, brother?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Hey, man, thanks for calling and thanks for listening, Bill. Keep listening. We're going to hear that part of Travis's story, so keep listening, buddy.
Okay.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Travis, what do we want to go to that text, or is it it is kind of a bit of a rabbit trail, but why don't we go ahead and read it? We had a text in real quick, 515-809-0993.
Yeah, the question is, what does Travis think about the legalization as a former addict? Because Colorado and, is it Washington?
Yeah, they're moving that way. Do you want to just real quick address that, and then we can get to the other story, or no?
My pastor, Bruce Thomas in Boone, says the only influence you should be under is the influence of Jesus. So that's how I'm going to answer that.
I think that's a perfectly good answer. So, Frank?
I just had a quick question going back to, I picked up on something because I heard this terminology in my life, skate or die.
Yeah.
How many of them skate or die guys are still hanging in there?
Oh, I don't know. Actually, one of my new pastors, Todd Stevens, his son is still a skater. So yeah, there's some out there, and I got a cousin Gilbert who skates, and my brother, if he wasn't in prison, would be skating. Skating's it's a different thing now, but yeah.
Well, once you get to a certain age and a certain weight and certain things, sometimes that skating just seems.
Well, in all seriousness, this is a rabbit trail, but it surprises me because we're similar age, Travis, you and I, and there's the skate park in Urbandale, and there's kids out there doing stuff. I mean, this isn't going away. I mean, it's a cool sport. You don't have to do drugs and stay off drugs and skateboard. I don't know.
I got to admit, I could never ride a skateboard very well.
That's right. It was a cool culture. So you there's a part of your story. What you said earlier on, Eldora, Iowa was home. That's your stomping grounds. You couldn't go anywhere in Eldora without running into somebody who was a bad influence on you.
Or somebody I had robbed. Or
someone my goodness, yeah. And so why care about that, though? Who cares? I mean, that's your town. What changed that you started to care all of a sudden about that?
Well, actually, I kind of touched on that when I called in last week. What happened was I went to jail, and I got a Bible, and I started reading it, and I started praying. And while I was in jail, I asked Jesus into my life. And I believe now that he came into my life then. But when I got out of jail, instead of plugging into a church right away, well, within 2 hours of being out of jail, I was shooting meth, just the way the circumstances worked out. So what happened, what I ended up learning later from my good friend Pastor Bruce, is that at that point I was what he would call a disobedient child of God. So I believe that Jesus came into my life in 2010. It's just I wasn't ready to acknowledge him yet at that time.
What about Jesus was appealing? Here you are, a kid you weren't raised in a Christian home. Right? You're raised by a single mom, doing the best you could, exposed to drugs at a very young age, doing drugs, being a good criminal, just like any other good criminal would be, doing the best you can, robbing as many people as you can. And so here you're living the lawless life, and you're locked up and you're in jail, and some dude comes up to you talking about this Jesus guy. What was it that was appealing to you about Jesus?
What's funny about that is actually there was this lady, Sasha Clark, who I probably shouldn't drop names like that, but she was a counselor in the Story County Jail, and I was in her drug rehab class, and somehow we ended up talking about the Bible. I started reading the Bible actually to try to pick it apart,
really,
and to come down and trash her faith is what I was trying to do.
To hurt her.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how that all started, and then I just kind of liked it, and I don't know, it went the other way, I think.
You and I talked about a little bit earlier today before we got on the radio that you and I have one common interest in the book of Samuel. We both agree that that's a really cool story, whether you
Whether you're a Christian or not, there's just huge entertainment value in the book of Samuel.
Huge entertainment value. Frank, you got your hand up like, caught, pick on me, caught.
Usually there comes a time in most inmates' life where you either going to become a permanent resident of the establishment or you're going to get your rear out of it. And a lot of times those people who are trying to get their rear out of it seem to find Christ. Was that a reoccurring theme with you, or was that like a first time? I mean, did you just, this is it, I'm going for it? Because a lot of people find Christ over and over when they get sent back in.
Yeah, I can't really answer that 100% honest, because I do remember another time in jail when I thought that I was looking for Christ, and you're right, Frank. A jailer once told me that he told his wife that if he's dying to send him to jail because that's where everybody finds Jesus, right. And so I think I went through that a couple of times, and I think even the time when it stuck, when the seed was really planted, I don't think that I was earnestly seeking Him. I don't think that my motives were pure, but for some reason that's when God decided to grab a hold of my heart, and I didn't realize it at the time. What's amazing about it is I said while I was in there, which it's a syndrome I call gate-itis. While you're in there, you say one thing, you do one thing, and you really want to live a different life. As soon as the gate opens, all those other possibilities are available to you, and you hit the road running. Right. So when you hear stories about that, girls getting conned by inmates and stuff, a lot of times those inmates might not even know that they're lying at the time. They truly believe that they want to change, but that's because they have such limited options. Right. As soon as all the other options of the world open up to them, then they just lose their mind and they're right back off and running.
Travis Garrett is our guest on 99.3 FM The Truth. This is Max World Live. God got a hold of Travis while he was in prison. Was it a legit conversion? Let's find out. Let's hear the rest of his story, okay?
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coach with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
You're listening to 99.3 FM The Truth. This is Max World Live. No, I'm not J. Michael McCoy. I'm Chris Roloff, normally here every day from 3 to 5 in the afternoon with you. So is Frank and Bob and Jeb's producing. But today, our special guest is Travis Garrett. And Travis was in prison, and a guy came, Travis, and started telling you about Jesus. And you thought, what? What was your thought when this guy started talking to you about Jesus?
Well, to be honest with you, I like to tell a story about. I remember one time I was sitting in jail, and these guys come in and they're like, "Did you hear the good news? Did you hear the good news?" And I was like, "What? Are they giving us extra lunch or something?" and I get up and it's the Gideons, and I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" You know, so I didn't have an interest in finding Jesus. You know, like I said, I was trying to pick it apart to this counselor, the substance abuse counselor. So that's why I was reading the Bible, and then I don't know why at that point in time it took, but it did, and I prayed for him to come into my heart, and he did, and when I got out, like I said, the situation just played out to where I didn't have any type of support system set up or anything, and I ended up just doing the same old stuff over and over again. So anyway, you know, that was like 2010, and about 2 years, the most miserable time of my life, I ran around trying to do what I used to do. I don't know why God didn't lift my addiction to drugs, but what he did was he started to convict me about the things that I had to do to maintain my drug habit. Things that I used to do without thought, robbing people, fighting, just being a horrible criminal person. It used to come to me very easily, and I never lost sleep over it. Now I could no longer do. I hated myself because of it. So I got to that point, and I said, God, I give up. And I had a friend who got out of prison and went to a building in Boone called the All for Jesus building. And so I went there. Boone Biblical was running it, Pastor Bruce Thomas. And I went there, and I got sober, and I met some really, really great people. And there was a Bible study every morning at 8 o'clock with Mike Myers, and I would go do that. And that's where I met my beautiful wife and my daughter, Kaylee. And I, you know, I wish I could say that I came to Boone, and that's when I turned my life to Christ. Christ had already entered my heart, but that's when I really tried to start living for Christ. That's when I really tried to do better, to want to live a different life. And it would be awesome if I could sit here and tell you that everything's been great since then. Things started off really good. You know, I turned my life over to Christ, and I ended up meeting Jill and Randy, and Jill hooked me up with this thing called the Walk to Emmaus, which is a fantastic thing that I do a couple times a year. It's like a 4-day weekend. It's not a retreat because you can only go through once, but it's just really good. And I met some really good Christian people there, and I got plugged into some Bible studies and really got on fire for the Lord. And then I did dope again. I don't know why. I just did, and it jacked up my testimony, because I can't say that once I started living for Jesus, I stayed sober after that. But in another way, it also made my testimony stronger for some people, because I can say, you know, if you've messed up after you met Christ, that happened to me too. It doesn't mean that everything has to be bad from that point on. It means that, you know, Jesus gives us grace and forgiveness. So even if you have messed up since you've been a Christian, it's not a lost cause anymore. The 3 deadliest words to an addict are, what's the point? What's the use? You get stuck in that rut to where you're just like, what's the point? Why even try? You know what I mean? Because I always end up messing everything up. Everything always turns to crap. Nothing ever works out for me. That whole victim card. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. When you come to Christ, instead of being a victim, you're victorious. You know.
Yeah. So let me turn that question around to you, and you can answer it for me, Travis. What is the point?
What's the point of what?
What's the point?
What's the point? The point for me is that I got to feel a love from Christ that I thought that I was looking for from women or from anybody. My whole life, this sounds like boo-hoo, but my whole life I just never really felt like that I was loved enough, you know? And so instead of, God, that sounds so girly, but so then I tried to act like a tough guy, like, oh, I don't want love, and I turned into a criminal, and I'm going to be, you know, the hardest person around because I don't feel like I get enough love. When you get right down to it, the core beliefs, it's all just fear and inadequacies, you know, and I go to Celebrate Recovery, and I go to NA a couple times a week, and there's some great recovery. If anybody out there is listening, my number one message would be that Jesus Christ can fix everything. Turn your life over to Christ. Number 2, if you're struggling with drugs, NA is a fantastic thing too, and so is Celebrate Recovery. So there's a lot of help out there. There's a lot of people out there that have been through what you're going through who are willing to help and won't judge you because they've been through it.
Travis Garrett is our guest, and Travis, one of the things that you just said that earlier in this part of the testimony that struck me was that God, after you got out of jail and you had accepted Christ in prison, God he didn't take your drug addiction away. He began to convict you of the other things that you did. You had to steal, you had to hurt other people to get your drugs, and he started to convict you. Do you continue to see that as an evidence of God in your life? His word in you, his whisper to your ear?
Yes, and yeah, that's exactly how I know. A lot of people talk like about warm, fuzzy feelings, and that's how they know God's real. How I know God is real, how I know it to be certain, is that things that I used to be able to do without giving a second thought now all of a sudden bother me. How can you can't make a change in your core beliefs like that? It just doesn't happen overnight like that. You know, when you in the NA program, you do step work and stuff like that to try to figure out what your core beliefs are which drive your actions, and you try to change that, but it never just happens. It's not just like all of a sudden one day, oh, I used to be able to lie and not think about it, and now I can't. That has to be extra. That's outside of me for that to have happened. So how I know God is real is conviction.
Yeah, and that's a really powerful thing, because in our culture today, Travis, the one thing that the world wants to come after, I think, is the conviction. We don't want to call anything bad. We don't want to say anything that anybody has done is bad, because that might hurt them, that might convict them.
That's placing a value judgment.
And that's placing a value judgment. But your testimony to us today is that that's how God spoke to you. Not through Chris Roloff convicting you, but something inside your core value, something inside you changed, and you said, wait a minute, I shouldn't be doing this anymore. And that didn't make sense to you, did it?
No, not at all. It made me absolutely miserable. I hated myself. Like I said, I didn't realize it at the time, but Pastor Bruce told me that I was a disobedient child of God. A disobedient Christian is the most miserable person on the planet. And that's what I was. And I believe that to be true. I was mad. I was like, God, I knew that my life wasn't great, but I was pretty content with it. Running around, shooting dope, doing whatever I had to do that. Leaving as much wreckage in my wake as needed to be left, and then landing in jail and getting healthy for a little while, and then getting back out and doing it again. That's what my life was. I didn't know any better. I mean, I knew better, but that's what my life was. And I was content with that, and God said, no more. I'm not going to let you be okay about this anymore. And I was mad. Okay, God, if you're not going to let me be okay about it anymore, then it sounds crazy, but I was just like, okay, I give up. Show me what to do. And what to do was to start reading, to get in some Bible studies, to connect, to get into some NA groups, to just connect and meet other like-minded people who had gone through it.
And it's produced fruit, Travis, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, well, I hope so. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, buddy, there's a gal sitting behind you there. There's a guy in that booth over there, and there's a bunch of texts that say, yeah, it's producing fruit. So God is good, man. Thank you so much, Travis, for sharing your story. I know it takes a lot of courage to do it, but God is honored. God was blessed. Jesus Christ was praised. He was glorified. There are people just like me listening today that said, praise God. He is alive.
I got to give a shout out to my son, Tyson, and my daughter, Kaylee. I love you guys.
Hey, Tyson. You got a good dad, Tyson. You got a good dad. Hey, thank you so much, guys, for listening. I want to reiterate what Max says all the time. He says, he ends this broadcast, forgive and you shall be forgiven. But I want to say to all of us who, like Travis, recognize that we are sinners, you are forgiven. Have a good week. See you tomorrow.